podcast. I am Stevie Collier, and I am talking to you through the bright and sunny state of California. I am right now in San Bernardino at a Starbucks because, of course, the Wi-Fi has been working great at the hotel for 5 days now, and then whenever I want to do something, it's just like, screw you. So I'm at Starbucks. This is the second time, Andy, I've had to do it from a Starbucks.
Second or third.
Second or third, but at least it's not in Phoenix where I was like sweating my ass off.
Yeah. Definitely. So it's very likely that throughout the episode, Stevie's going to be dropping off. And, I just don't have Stevie's gift of gab. So there might be some awkward silences, Noel, that I'm definitely expecting you to fill.
Okay.
Just throwing you in on the deep end with your first time podcast appearance.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
That is going to be annoying. Sorry.
It's all right. We were just talking about it, how we're gonna totally fill in the gaps and not be awkward at all about it.
Yeah, don't be awkward. There's nothing awkward when I'm here. I'll just make things even more awkward so you feel better. So we are joined by it's Noel, right? Noel Nichols. Just kidding. Wait, it is Nichols, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
I'm not going to say I was saying Nichols to joke, but that's really your last name. So I'm the jerk. No, just kidding. So Andy, I was going to say, Andy, why don't you tell us a little bit about Noel's books? Noel, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your ultra famous books?
Yeah, so I'm an epic fantasy author. I tend to go a little bit more on the heroic side just because that's kind of my thing, I think.
Because you're cool?
Because I'm cool. I like the light. I'm not really a dark person. I'm so dark. So basically it's a series that focuses heavily on Bushido, which is the samurai code. And so it's very cool. It's like a samurai ninja mix. But it follows these characters kind of as they're navigating, like these evil people that are kind of sabotaging their way of life, and they're really introspective, thinking, trying to hold on to that honor of who they are and adhering to this code. And that's what my series is about, the Shadows Creed saga.
Nice. So Bushido is freaking awesome. And I thought you were talking about Bujinkan, which is, modern day ninjutsu.
Right.
But Bushido, I actually just bought a book on it, and I would love to hear your research throughout the podcast on, when we find a spot, a little bit about Bushido. I don't know a whole lot about samurai stuff, but ever since I've been playing Sekido, I studied it a little bit. But am I right in saying that samurais were trained in multiple different things, not just one single thing? Like they knew hand-to-hand, judo.
Right. Yeah. So the whole samurai thing is that you would train in multiple things, and that you would also train into like the arts. So like calligraphy, painting, and stuff like that, which is really cool. Not a lot of people know that, but like they were very good poets. They have like the death poems that are kind of fascinating. They do like a bunch of different training, and it's kind of all about like centering yourself, and it's about, being able to act without having to think, because, in the state of war, it's like you don't really want to be like, I don't want to like swing the sword. You need to like commit and go for it.
Yeah.
See, Stevie, your misconception here is that Bushido is a martial art. Bushido is not. It is this code of conduct, this code of honor that the samurai or the nobility of Japan would follow. This style of life. So it was not just about war. There was an element of it, but like she was saying, art. I don't know if it was in The Last Samurai or if it was in some Japanese movie or Chinese movie. You'll often see it where the really badass samurai or the warrior, he's doing these amazing paintings and the lettering and the scrolls, with the fancy kanji, and they're painting these letters. And so the Japanese lettering, the calligraphy, is the art form in itself, and then they're writing poetry in this calligraphy. So it's like two art forms wrapped up together into this beautiful thing. And so there were all sorts of elements that went into this lifestyle, and this Bushido, this moral code, was how they lived. It had very little to do with the actual war. It governed the principles of war, the way they approached each other in battle. Like you hear the stories about the two samurai meeting, or the two warriors meeting on the bridge. They don't actually fight, because they look at each other, they kind of size each other up. They see, okay, he's going to do this, they're going to do that. And then one of them just backs down. They bow to the other one and retreat. Like that. That's the kind of thing that Bushido is.
Dude, you would be terrifying in samurai armor back in the day. Like, it's like you would be like the Goliath of samurai. You know, swinging some big ass claymore instead of a katana.
Oh, they have these massive Japanese swords. I'm gonna look them up right now. It's like a super long, super large katana.
The naginata.
No, the naginata was a pole arm.
Okay.
It was a sword at the end of a spear, essentially. Let me see. I think it's the wakizashi.
Noel, what do we look up to find you on Amazon? Because I've tried all the names and I'm just not finding it.
Try looking up just Shadow's Hand. It should be
Shadow's Hand.
one
Okay.
of the first 3-ish.
Shadow's Hand. I bet you I've already seen the cover, and I have. So, oh wait. Very nice. Yeah. It's ironic that we are talking to you today because I've been looking up. I guess we could say ancient Japan stuff. There is one lady who writes about oh my god, shinobi, which I think is gonna be. It's like it's a crime fiction, but with the shinobi. So you got all this ninja stuff. So you got to, but you can look up ninja. I know your books aren't about ninjas, but what I learned was that the ninjas were actually trained in all the stuff that the samurai were. They were just kind of like the secret agents. And the thing is, they never wanted to fight. Their big thing was leaving without a trace and never having to fight, which to me, you know, being an American, a gaijin, I thought that ninjas were just all over the place. Like, oh, I'm going to kill you, Naruto. But no, they were trying to get in and get out, kind of like English spies, American spies. Well, I don't even know if we have those today. Do we, Andy?
The spies?
I'm thinking of World War II spies, like the classic spy, where actually you could go undercover with the lack of technology. Because
spies definitely do exist today.
How do you think that works though, with all the technology we have today?
You know, it's sort of like thievery. Thievery adapts according to the technology, and technology adapts according to thievery. So, you know, spies, it's going to be the same thing. You know, as soon as wiretaps were invented, spies found other ways to communicate that didn't involve, cell phones or all of that. Now that there's GPS trackers everywhere, spies know they've got to ditch their cell phone or take out the SIM card or whatever. You know, like you adapt
take out the SIM
to your
card.
technology.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I wish there was a book out there about that, but that's so cool that we're talking about samurais today. Well, actually, we're not. We are talking about the moral code, and but first, don't we need to talk about the cool things that happened to us this week?
Absolutely.
All right, and actually, real quick, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so do I call you Noel? Is that what you prefer?
Yeah.
Okay, Noel, so you, in the emails, you said you had really cool news today.
I have multiple newses, and I was like, which news am I talking about?
We want all the newses in.
All of it.
Okay, so I have, one of the big things I have in the works is I wrote a short story that I am actually, it's called Steel and Stone, but it's a short story, but it's also going to be a manga, so I'm in the process of doing character designs and drawing, and I have like a huge series that's kind of like a side thing where it's basically like a traveling merchant in feudal Japan, and he befriends like a war god. So that's like my side project because I actually illustrated my cover, and just drawing is kind of one of my side passions. So I have character designs to reveal, and I have my second book cover that I've drawn that is it's pretty close to done. It's not quite, but it looks super cool, and I'm really excited about it.
So is it safe to say that you and I are both weeaboos?
Yeah.
All right, fellow weeb.
Woohoo!
Weeb power. Yeah, I wish I had more time. Man, that's so cool. Can you share would you be open to sharing your screen and showing us some of the drawings that you did?
Yeah, sure.
That would be wonderful. It's not often that we have manga illustrators on air. It seems like it would be hard to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know how to draw, like I like drawing, but digital art is a little bit new to me. So I just did a test because like I'm seriously like, can I actually do this? Is where I'm at because it's a huge scope. I was like, I know how to write stories, but this is about drawing and stuff. So
Yeah, I got you. That seems.
Screen share. Is this gonna work? Application window.
Should be to the left of your screen.
Okay, we'll see if this works.
Okay.
Did that work?
Yes, nice. Ooh, Photoshop too.
Yeah. So that's a quote from it is, so the story behind this is that this is at the end of the war. So this is when the samurai were having their swords confiscated. So they're really wrestling with who they are as a people. So, you know, to be a samurai meant to serve. Without my sword, who was I? So.
That looks freaking difficult to do.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm learning as I go. So, yeah.
Very nice. Very cool. And you said you had other news. I look like a weeb with the with the headband. I just need like the little Naruto symbol. You know what? I say Naruto a lot, but I didn't watch a lot of Naruto. I watched Steins Gate, Gundams when I was little, and now it's Hunter x Hunter, Death Note, and My Hero Academia is my absolute favorite.
Yeah.
And a huge influence on the Bizarre Blades. But today is not about anime, unfortunately, as much as Andy would like it. Today is about the moral code, which we're going to get to. But what is your other news that you had?
I mean, I think that was it. Unless you guys know something, unless you guys know something else that I don't know. I think it's
maybe I was. Did you send the email about the news? Okay, Andy, what is your good news for the day, for the week? Uh-oh.
I was looking to say, I think he's gone.
Okay, we'll get back to Andy. So I actually don't have good news this week. I have terrible, horrible news.
Oh no.
Yeah, so we're in LA for my brother. He's doing he's at a convention with his fellow PhD students for paleontology. And we all just found out this morning, that my grandma has breast cancer that has spread to her lymph nodes. So it was so, you know, being a writer, it's just innate in me that I instantly start putting down notes in my head about what's going on and how it feels in the environment. And it's weird. The room got colder and it got darker, and it was so depressing. And because my grandma is like my second mom, I'm very close to my grandma. I see her every week. So guys, please keep her in your prayers. Heavily, please keep her in your prayers, because she was a huge influence. In fact, the very first book I wrote, I was 12, and my grandma had a huge part in it. It was super cute, super lame, but super cute. Like she was like she was like I was like James Bond, and she was my what was her name? The old grandma, and she died. I don't want to give it away. And James Bond, she's the old. Yeah, M. She was my M in this story whenever I was 12. It was super cute. But yeah, guys, keep her in your prayers. Don't mean to depress this podcast or anything. But yeah, good news. Oh, good news. Bloodblade released today. So, woohoo! Yeah, super exciting. It turned out more horror than I imagined it was going to be, but we have this the Bloodblade. This character, this antagonist, his mind has been warped by this Bloodblade, which is kind of like a vampire inside of a sword. It's a little bit bizarre, but it turned out more gory and horror-y than I imagined it to be. But don't worry, Wackadoodle brings it back down to a calmer mood, a little bit. The Bizarre Blades is bizarre because there's comedy even in the worst parts of it, which kind of signifies actually how it resembles kind of how my family deals with horrible news. It's we deal with it with laughter, even though it's inappropriate, but it works. So laugh therapy, right?
That's right.
But yeah, so that is my good/bad news for the day. Please keep her in your prayers. Andy, we lost you there for a minute. What is your good news?
Oh, I will show you right now. So this is the latest collection to my to my toys.
It looks like a kunai almost. I
No,
can't really
it's
see.
it's a straight up boar spear.
Oh, okay, I see it now.
And what's cool about this is that this crossbar here, this is really common for hunting spears. It is a hunting spear essentially because they would have it so that the boar, once it was impaled on the spear, it couldn't like pull itself down and gore the wielder. So when the characters in the Silent Champions, they go undercover among the sort of barbarians, they actually modify the spear with this crossbar. So this is what the spear looks like at the end of the series. And so I got this one for the Silent Champion series, which is going to be coming out in September. But I'm trying to collect one weapon per series, and this is the latest toy that I got. My wife was actually okay with me getting it. How awesome is that?
Pretty cool.
Where did you get it from? Cold Steel or?
Yeah.
You actually got it from Cold Steel?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, very cool. Very fun. It's going to make an
an
awesome decoration for my wall when it is finally hung up. I got to figure out how to hang it, which is always going to be fun.
I guess you could try and hang it from the D borers or whatever you call them. It looks like just like a crossguard for boars.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be pretty simple.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Man, you're making me look bad, like, because I don't own anything but cheap katanas, which just makes me like the weebest of the weebs.
Well,
Seriously.
once your Bizarre Blade series makes you a millionaire, then you can commission them to be made specifically for the series.
Yeah. It's a huge thing. I thought it was just the head.
It's just under. It's 6 feet 11 inches. Full the full thing.
Jeez.
This is the nerdiest podcast ever. I love it.
To be fair, cool. Every podcast we do is the nerdiest podcast ever.
I know. I take full blame for that. You're actually cool. I'm not. Okay, so today we are talking about the moral code, which me and Rashawn and Rebecca have no idea about. So, Andy, please explain to us what that is.
Well, I think Rebecca, Noelle's got a pretty good example of it in her books. Living by some sort of code. Essentially, every character has some sort of moral code. Every person in the world has some sort of moral code that determines what's right and wrong, good and evil. These concepts, good and evil, they're much too highbrow. That's just like, there's no way to determine what is good and what is evil in the world. Obviously, there are very visible extremes, but the middle is pretty gray area, so that we each decide our line of what we believe is acceptable, unacceptable, good, evil, right, wrong, and that's what we live by. And it's something that everyone has unconsciously or subconsciously to a certain extent. These are what Steve's titties sound like. He missed that one.
Wait, what'd you say? I want to hear it.
I said that's what your titties sound like because it was making rubbing noises.
Oh, yeah. They are just freshly oiled, so. So do you think that everyone in the world has a moral code, or is it possible to have zero? Like a psychopath?
It's impossible to have no moral code. Even psychopaths will have some sort of moral code. And this is something that I played around with a lot in the Hero of Darkness series, is the sliding scale of morality. The demons that the hunter meets aren't straight up evil. It's just that their line of good versus evil, right versus wrong, is in a totally different place than the hunter and the humans around him. So to the characters that they interact with, to us who are human, they're perceived as evil because their sense of morality is totally off. And so for someone who lives sort of an evil life, people who do things that would be considered evil or wrong, their sense of morality is equally totally skewed. But everybody has that moral code to some extent. And now most of us don't actually live by it to the extent that the samurai did. Like Bushido, it governed every aspect of their lives. And I'm sure you did a lot of research on Bushido.
Oh yeah. I have a bunch of books. I read all the samurai masters that I could, like Musashi. I read Book of Five Rings, and all the other classic ones. But yeah,
what? You're gonna have to give us a list so I can put it into the description for today.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, real quick, I know we're not talking about No, this does have to do with the moral code. So, is it true that the samurai would do that intense suicide where they stick the blade in their gut and then they kill themselves whenever they've been shamed, right? And then they pull out their own intestines?
Right.
God, I feel sorry for these Starbucks people around me. They're probably like, what the hell is going Can you explain a little bit about that, or does any? I don't know if you studied that in depth, because that would have been the first thing I went to.
Yeah, so that's definitely, I think, the thing everybody knows about the samurai is seppuku, and just having such horrible shame that the only way to right it would be to end your life. One of the fun facts is that there's usually a second. You have the person who unsheaths the swords and is ready to stick it in their belly. But the actual killing blow would be, the enemy, or it would be like, the general, your general, or something that would actually chop off your head. Just because you don't actually
Afterwards.
they don't like pull the entrails out and you don't sit there and like bleed out. You would have a clean death, and that would be considered honorable. And that's one of the ways that you would restore your honor, because it's shame, which is something that's a bizarre concept. Is honor and shame is something I don't feel like we have a lot in like Western culture. Honor would be, especially with the samurai, it was their identity. This is how they lived their life and everything. So to lose that identity, or to do something that would make people think badly of you, or to shame your family, you would need to do something drastically, regain your honor. And that's kind of one of the things I enjoy. Is I like the discipline. I like the loyalty that goes into it. I've been fascinated with the Sengoku period, just because like it's so extreme. And I was like, how? Like, what did they do with their mindset? Like, I've tried to read as much like translations as I can, because I'm learning Japanese, but I haven't gotten there yet.
Where are you in your Japanese right now?
It's like I have memorized maybe half of just the hiragana. Kanji, oh my gosh, I don't even know like where to start. I've learned like the roots, like the radicals, like the house and the legs, so you can sort of like interpret some stuff. But I'm learning, because it's weird. It's my first language I've learned, so I don't know whether to learn the written language or like the words, or the speaking. So I've kind of been trying to do them all. And then I was like, maybe learning written is easier. And I was like, okay, maybe
it's tough. I just feel like everyone has their own way of learning it. But I got to be careful, because I will turn this podcast into a language podcast really quickly. I'm learning not to slow down my tangents, to at least to minimize them, I should say. So,
and now we go off on a tangent about how Stevie's controlling his tangents.
I'm trying. So, are we talking about the moral code today because it was such a huge deal with the samurai?
Yes.
Well, it's one of the main elements in your book, no?
Right. Yeah. I mean, because the main character, he is. So basically, the Shadows Creed is my take on the Bushido Code. So we have the Shadows, who are basically samurai in my series, and so this is the code. And actually, I wrote out a code because I'm that nerdy. I actually created a code. I created the code, so you actually have the Shadows Creed at the beginning, and you have a bunch of lines and stuff, but it's very introspective, whereas the main character, he'll actually refer and quote one of the passages from the Shadows Creed, just because that is such his mind. And it's been fascinating, because some people just cannot. They're like, I cannot understand how he can be so like, to his code, when us would do things to make our life easier, whereas, he has to follow his creed. So it's been a very interesting kind of like play to see how people react to such an extreme, because I think it's kind of not usual. It's weird for people to be that way.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that we in the Western world are so accustomed to. But what's interesting about it is that it's still pretty prevalent in Japan. There was a time in the late 90s, early 2000s, when there was just this massive spree of suicides because of an economic downturn in Japan, especially in Tokyo. And, professionals would lose their jobs. And because this whole honor system and, saving face and reputation was so hardwired into their culture, they would be ashamed to go home and tell their wives that they had lost their job. So they would just jump off a building. It was crazy. And there were a lot of people like, they would just leave home, become homeless, because they didn't want to face their families, their loved ones, and tell them that they'd lost their job. The shame was too much. Like, it was a serious epidemic for a few years until, the economy recovered. And it's not something you'd find outside of that culture, or at least not as common. You do hear about it from time to time. But because it's so hardwired into the Japanese mindset, that's how it evolved into their culture. And that's definitely one area where a moral code can be a drawback, where it's like you have such a strict code of ethics to live by that it can actually stop you. I mean, think about all of the warriors that committed seppuku. Just, the number of people, the number of deaths. Imagine, what would have happened had they found another way to regain their honor or something like that,
We actually studied that in my sociology class, and I didn't actually know about the lost job one. We studied the one where they can't get into college because they have to take that test. I'm sure I forgot the name of the test that you have to take to see if you get into a college or not. It's actually in a lot of animes too, but the suicide rate was high with younger people because they wouldn't get into this college or any college because they would fail that test, so they would have to go into like some physical work. Of course, I'm ignorant and I don't remember it completely, but it was a huge deal and still is a big deal. But yeah, and I actually remember jumping off the roofs of buildings. Is that a common way that they were doing it?
Well, it's Tokyo. There's tons of high rises. Pretty easy. Probably the easiest way.
I got you. But yeah, you bring up an interesting point. When moral code goes the wrong way, when it's supposed to be like, so we're talking shame can lead a moral code to something negative, right?
Yeah. Well, it's the drawback of that honor side of things is the shame side of things.
Honor, yeah.
If your honor drives you to shame, like if you fail to live up to your standard, to your code, shame can drive you to do some pretty terrible things. And I think that's probably where a lot of the villains came from in the old samurai movies, is the people who had, broken their code of honor. So they just kind of went full on dark side. They were like, well, I have, I've lost my honor, so I'm just going to go, banditry or, murder, all of that.
And so, and let's not forget the suicide forest in Japan.
That's a different thing.
That's a different thing. Okay, so why is that different? I don't know. So
I don't think it's directly related to people committing suicide because of the moral code in that forest.
Okay.
Like it's sort of like the San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge. It's just a place,
ritual cult thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's developed a reputation for it.
Oh, so Noel, you said it's a cult thing?
Yeah, I think it's just like one of those popular places that, you hear about. It's like, oh, do it. There's like a couple of mountain ranges at other places where, they put up the signs and everything just because, it's just a popular spot to do it. It's not really, I feel like it's not really tied to anything that would really drive you, except that you're just really in that depressed state. It's not really the same.
Interesting. Yeah, because someone who doesn't know anything about it, I went straight to it being some kind of, like Andy said, you get, fired from your job. You know what? Speaking of moral code, I was trying to put it into my own book of Shimo, which is a more barbaric land. They don't have any sort of honor code where if they do something wrong, they will kill themselves. In fact, I'm trying to figure out. Andy, you're writing barbarians. What would their honor code be? Are they not bringing home enough meat? Are they?
So like you've got, the Vikings. I've studied the Vikings a bit for the series, and it's
Really?
Death in battle, a noble death in battle. If you don't die in battle, if you die of old age, if you lose your limbs and you become a cripple, it's sort of expected that if you're going to be a warrior and go to Valhalla, you die in battle. Only those who fall in battle get taken to Valhalla. The rest, they go to a different place. I don't remember if there's a paradise of sorts where it's, it's much more, it's not for warriors. It's for
like a limbo.
Yeah, I think essentially like that. And cowards, they get taken to hell, obviously. But every single culture around the world has had this code of morals to some extent. You're talking a basic justice system that is instilled in each of us from a young age, and I think it dates back to the earliest things where no matter who you are, you've got some line you won't cross, and every single character you read, they're gonna have some kind of line. We've all got the one where you don't kick the dog, you don't murder the children, you don't. There's all these lines that we as a society immediately deem unacceptable. There are some that you can play around a bit with, like. Let's say murdering people. Hey, the Punisher did it, and we all agreed with him. if Captain America did it, we wouldn't agree with him. So like it's there's a bit more of a sliding scale, and that's why there is no single unified code of morals, because it's impossible to legislate righteousness across the board. What works for one person won't work for another person. One situation won't work for another. One country, one culture, one religion. It just doesn't work across the entire world. And so it's like the system of Bushido would never have worked probably in, say, Northern Africa with the Bedouin tribes, because it's just a totally different way of living, or the Native Americans, or the First Nations, or the Mesoamerican people, or even the Europeans. Chivalry was one of these early codes, but the code of chivalry definitely wasn't, all peaches and cream. There was a lot about it that was pretty terrible. And same with Bushido. It's got its limitations. It's got its things that just totally denigrate people. I mean, if you look at the way that women were treated according to the Bushido code, it's definitely not, wonder and magic. So every defined code of morals has its drawbacks. So that's why everybody kind of has to do their own according to their situation. And that's why, people who are psychopaths, sociopaths, they say that their moral code is twisted or it's off, because they don't find that balance between what they believe, what is good and evil sort of according to society.
Andy, you're so smart.
Thank you, Stevie.
You're welcome. Noel, can you please read us your moral code that you wrote out? I'm actually very interested.
Okay. Yeah.
You said it was like a nerdy thing of yourself to do. I think it's super cool.
Cool. Well, as long as you think it's cool. This actually took me forever to figure out.
Well, you're talking to two people that would actually spend time to do this as well. Especially Andy. Andy would probably
100%.
Yeah. Andy would way more than me, but my big thing is I spend time writing songs for my books, like pirate shanties.
That's
and
awesome.
Stuff. Yeah, that's my big thing, and of course they always turn out sexual, which makes me ponder, like, who am I as a person? So so while you're looking that up, I got this tooth drilled out. I think Andy knew I was going to the dentist a lot, and they put this crown on and they shaved half the tooth down. It has been a living hell. Something is wrong. So I'm stuck in California with this tooth.
Oh no.
God, dental pain is the worst. It doesn't go away. So I've been living off Tylenol and ibuprofen, and like this cold brew coffee is just like really testing how strong I am. Like I have samurai pain tolerance because I won't stop it. I won't stop. What is that? A masochist, right?
Yeah.
Masochist, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Do you want me to read all of it or just parts of it?
Is it super long?
I mean, it's not like super long. It's just.
Oh yeah.
Read it.
Okay.
Shit.
Cool. Okay. So, a shadow seeks peace within himself and the world around him. A shadow stays true to his beliefs, letting compassion guide his actions. A shadow does not condemn, searching for the truth with unclouded eyes. A shadow does not take life, killing only when no other option can be found. A shadow protects the innocent, using his strength to aid those in need. A shadow does what he is capable of, no more can be asked of him. A shadow serves until he is no longer able, his life freely given to the people.
God, that sounds like the Jedi Code, just darker.
Which Jedi Code, Stevie?
There's
lots of them.
I prefer the Gray Jedi Code, which is fan-made, but it kind of sounds like what you were talking about, just more. Actually, the code for the Champions of Arbitration, which is my kind of like thing in the Bizarre Blades, I took it. I didn't steal it, but it was definitely inspired by the Gray Jedi Code, which I personally would fall into rather than the Jedi or the Sith. So, because I believe in parts of the Sith, their moral code of passion is power. I believe that. Yeah, and the Jedi weren't. Well, they weren't allowed to get married. Okay, don't get me started. All right, don't get me started. But yeah, so Andy, do you think that in every series that people write that there is a moral code created without us even having to think about it?
Every single character that we write has a moral code of some sort. I mean, if you look at the Hunter, I went into him writing him thinking, yeah, he's just a total badass, but pretty much right away. It's clear that he's got a fine line that he draws between protecting the innocent and defenseless versus killing people who kind of deserve it. So right there, that's the line that he won't cross. If someone tries to harm someone that is innocent or that he thinks is innocent and doesn't deserve it, he's going to stop them from killing. Noel, I'm sure your character's got a pretty clear moral code beyond just the strictures of the Shadow Creed. They have their own thing that they do. What are some limits that they won't cross?
Yeah, so I have a lot of different characters that either adhere to the code really strictly, or some of them that are a little bit more loosely. Most of them definitely. Well, because I have the shadows and I have the other guys. The other guys are basically, they don't value life as much. That's really a big thing. Is, I even had the one in there with the not killing is definitely the one that really causes the problems, because some people believe that if people are attacking you and you can save more life than it is just to kill them. Whereas some of them are like, no, all life is sacred. We can save them, or maybe we should give them a chance to kind of, turn from their ways, or they have a certain talent, like they have the skill of seeing the world differently. So maybe, that has value in itself. It's very much about, how can we work together? I definitely wanted to create a world where people, where they respected one another, like they have different cultures in it, but they also, they're able to learn and grow. And that's kind of a big thing, is that they're thinking first before they're just lashing out.
I like it. It sounds very cool. You know what? Why don't we get to a little bit of the reading, get a little taste of the Bushido or the Shadow Creed. That's the one.
A little flavor.
Right.
Real quick question for both of you. When you are, Noel, are you an outliner?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask if because even I sometimes do this. Whenever I'm figuring out a character, I'll write down, what gift would you buy for them? Andy, I guess this more pertains to you. Do you write out a moral code for them, or is it just in your head?
Yeah, it evolves according to the character as I'm creating it. You kind of have an understanding of who they are, what they want, but then it changes over time. As an example, my scout character in the Silent Champions, when I sat down to write him, he was all about the money, right? That's pretty clear motivation right there. So you think he's not going to have a strong moral code, but then you find out he wants the money to support his family. He got kicked out of his house. His wife doesn't want anything to do with him. It totally changes who he is with this one quantifying fact. And so it's like, you go into the story telling one story, but then it slightly shifts on you and you end up telling a little bit of a different story than you originally sat down to do. So it's hard to plan out every aspect of every character. You just kind of let it evolve organically.
Yeah. And that's true for you, a severe outliner, as I would call you.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay. Yeah, because okay, so if you see me start running, it's because there's this huge fight going on across the lane. I'm in a very ghetto area and I'm like nervous. That's why I keep looking over my shoulder, because my back is to the highway. And it's there's a fight going on over here and it's making me nervous. I'm just, as we were talking before, I'm probably the whitest person here, so I'm gonna be the the headband hopefully makes me look scarier.
It does not.
It doesn't. No, not this big goofy smile. It doesn't work. All right, so we are reading from the Shadow's Hand, and this is excerpt from chapter 3, and the chapter is called Resolve.
Chapter 13.
Oh, chapter 13. I was chuckling while you were laughing, Andy, because I was moving from my book over to Shadow's Hand, and I'm halfway through the book. Apparently, I named a chapter "Silly Rabbit," so I'm just like, I might have to change. That's a little bit too ridiculous, or maybe not. So no one's laughing, so that just tells me yes, I need to change it. So, Noel, what we usually do is you are the director, la directrice. So you get to tell us who you want to play what. And I have it up here, so I actually will be able to join in today.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is going to be... I was reading over it. I was like, there's 3 people, but most of it is centrally around, because it's told in first person point of view. So it's through Kilo's point of view. So there is a lot of his dialogue and a lot of his internal thoughts going on.
Kilo is a guy?
Yes.
Is he like a man or a young boy?
He's in his 30s.
He's in his 30s. So, and he's a samurai?
Yep.
I would love to play him because I've been I've been playing Sekiro and I got to try out my samurai voice. Andy, what is that okay with you?
Totally fine.
Okay. And that first word is Van.
Van, yeah.
Van. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Noel, why don't you do Lunia, I guess?
Okay.
And the other character, who's the third character? Asdar, right?
Yes.
What kind of character is he?
He's the weapons master, so he's a little bit more hardcore samurai than actually Kilo is. So.
Ooh, I'm playing that part too, Andy. No, I'm kidding. That's an Andy.
You can't have it all, right, Stevie.
Oh, come on. You sound like, oh, never mind. That was going to turn out to be a very, very, very naughty joke. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so, all right. Are we ready to begin?
Do it.
Good luck.
So, am I playing narrator as well?
Yeah, because it's Kilo's voice.
Okay, and Noel, do you have a part?
Yeah, I have the nice small one, which has like I think 2 lines. So I'm happy.
All right, and can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, let us get into chapter 13. Resolve. This is much bigger than Vane, I continued, finding my anger had not dissipated. We need to do something before this threat grows, and we are unable to stop it. I wanted to round on Astar for his attack earlier, but I bit my tongue. It was not in his nature to restrain himself. He needed to gain a level of restraint he had lacked as a shadow, as I needed to become less trusting. I wanted the truth, the whole truth. I knew a portion of it, but there were pieces still unclear to me. What was the purpose of the false shadows? The skills seemed to be the center of it, but what did Hitori intend to do with them? It was the missing piece I was most uncertain of, and what I feared the most. Lunia finally spoke, her face pale.
Before anything else, we need to protect Van.
I shook my head. The way to protect our people is to stop the false shadows. If we don't make the first move, they will come again. And the next time, we will not survive the encounter.
We don't have enough shadows to do so,
Astar said, his breath heavy with irritation. He began pacing the room, his hand on the hilt of his oversized axe.
We have no choice but to be patient. Snow will soon begin to fall, and it will prevent a direct attack on Vayen. No one can make it over the mountains.
If we give Hitori the winter to train her false shadows, we won't be able to defeat her. I paused, composing my thoughts. He and Lunia didn't know. She possesses a power with infinite possibility. Astar and Lunia exchanged glances.
What power?
Astar asked. His eyes narrowed. I shook my head and fought off a wave of dizziness, bracing myself against the table to stay standing. The poison was impeding my action and clouding my mind. My head throbbed, so much so that it was hard to know what to say and in what order. I sat down into a chair, putting my hand against my temple. I don't know the full extent of it, but it's some sort of manipulation of energy. It's all I found out from the false shadow.
And where is this false shadow?
I cursed myself and Astar's quick wit. The damage had already been done. He escaped.
You didn't restrain him?
Astar's voice became a building torrent.
What were you thinking?
I met his glare and fixed my jaw. We had an agreement. Astar cut me off.
And what did he do? Stab you in the back? Tip off the false shadows about our whereabouts and tell them the phantoms are weak? He used you to get the wheat inside Vayen. He used you to poison our people. Thane became ill because of you.
I struggled to keep my voice even. What should I have done?
Killed those who threaten us.
The resolve in his voice left no hesitation. Everything we had trained for, the ideals and morals we believed in as shadows, how could he forsake them? To throw away what we trained for, lived for? Were the false shadows capable of destroying what we stood for as shadows? Were we that weak? I shook my head, trying to still my thoughts. You don't mean that. Astar met my gaze.
I do.
Out of all the shadows, Astar was the only other to have taken life. I'd struggled to forgive myself ever since killing to save Zavi's life. I could not even hold a sword without feeling the life of another in my hand. How could I take a life intentionally? Did Astar not feel remorse for the lives he had taken? Lunia stepped between Astar and me. She seemed unbothered by our exchange.
Perhaps rest is in order. This latest attack by the false shadows caught us off guard.
She lifted her gaze to Astar.
Be mindful of your words.
Astar's jaw tensed against the reprimand. Not killing was what separated us from the false shadows. While I couldn't deny it would make things easier, the cost would be too great. I glanced down at my palm, remembering the dead I had encountered. Could I have saved them if I had killed? I lifted my head, my hands fisted at my side. I burned the village of Mashin to the ground. Lunia and Astar snapped to attention. Lunia's mouth gaped. The people there were... Is that me?
Yeah.
Oh. The people were slaughtered by the false shadows. I found more dead in Lako, hidden in the forest. Both times, our shadows bound wrapped around people's arms. I can't turn my back on the innocents being slain across Kirikou. Lunia sighed, dragging her eyes to me.
We need you here in Van. Your place is here.
Could she not hear me? People were dying because of the shadows. Because of us. I turned to Astar. His face was a perfect mask. Given his earlier comment, I expected a word in my favor. When he offered none, I tried to keep the plea from my voice. Astar? He was silent, his eyebrows furrowed. When he finally answered, he would not meet my eye.
You can't forsake our people to deal with the affairs of others. Our people here are threatened. In the springtime, our shadows will possess the fighting capacity to put an end to the false shadows.
I swallowed my disappointment. Spring would be too late. If my conscience allowed me to forget all the people across Kirikou, I still couldn't agree to their lack of action. The skills were dangerous, and after encountering Hitori's closest followers, Ikaru's words of warning were beginning to sink in. I don't know what Hitori was capable of. None of us did. I could stay in Vain and hope we would be able to gain the strength needed to defeat the false shadows, defeating Hitori when we felt prepared. Or I could pursue Hitori myself and learn about the skills, striking when Hitori seemed vulnerable. Fene was in Vain, as were Sirene and Shinrei. As part of me screamed to stay here, to protect our people and close my eyes to the outside world. But my instincts screamed louder. If I didn't find a way to defeat the skills, our shadows would die, Vain would burn, and innocent people across Kirikou would be killed. Astar might have been the weapons master, and I did not doubt his ability to train shadows who could fight, but the skills would never be defeated through combat alone. If I let the shadows confront Hitori, they would die. I would not let that happen. The shadows were more than warriors. Astar would train the shadows for one purpose, to kill. The ideals of the shadows were shifting. The shadows and the creed we lived by meant too much to me to allow that. I needed to act now and prevent more bloodshed. I needed to find a way to ensure the shadows would be able to remain as they were, peacekeepers. I had to take the chance, whatever it took. That was awesome.
Very cool.
The
Good
weapons
job.
master is so cool.
Yeah, he's fun. He's one of my favorites, especially the two, because they have opposing views. So I'm like, this is gonna be fun.
He reminded me of a Mace Windu.
Yeah.
Andy, you're perfect for him.
Thank you.
Yes.
I always fancied myself a weapons master.
It's ironic that you actually just bought a weapon before
That's
becoming
true.
a weapons master.
That's true.
Now I need to get myself a weapon.
It's my destiny coming to the fore.
Rajin, thanks a lot, man. Yes, I know my voice, my samurai voice and my narration voice was different. I noticed that actually right away. I was like, wait, shouldn't I keep the same voice for both? This is why I'm not a Audible guy. I don't lend my voice. So, but
Stevie,
that was awesome.
you have a beautiful voice.
Thank you. Rajin, you hear that? My boyfriend says I have a beautiful voice. Really, Noel, that was awesome. And actually, your book is right up my alley. My cup of tea. My cup of ocha. And he's like, oh, he got the word right.
Yep, that's right.
Ocha.
Good job, Stevie.
Yeah. So, Noel, why don't you tell us where people can find you?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm everywhere. Isn't everyone? But noelnichols.com. It'll link you to all of my social media. I'm most active on Facebook, just because it's easier to have conversations with people about my books. So that is probably the best place if you want to talk to me.
Did you draw your cover?
Yep.
Oh, it's so. I love the lack of detail in the face because it just seems so much more mysterious.
Thank you.
Is his favorite weapon the spear or?
So he actually fights. Kilo fights with a staff because he kind of has given up the sword, just so it's not as much. It's harder to kill somebody with a staff than it is with a sword.
Yeah, I found it interesting that a samurai or a shadow wouldn't kill. It seems like a very soft approach. I guess he just couldn't deal with the killing.
Yeah, so it's more that their belief is that all life is sacred, and that people are doing things for their own reasons. It's kind of knowing that behind the scenes that you sometimes need to attack a village maybe to get food to provide for your own people, and then maybe we can come to terms with an agreement on that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, Keel is one of the people that is totally against killing, just because he bears the weight of having killed somebody, unlike the others who have not.
I got you. So actually, Andy, I had this really good idea. Does anyone in the audience have a question for Noel? And hey, Sherry, welcome to the podcast. Might take people too long, but Andy, I thought. What's up, Andy?
It's just like a few seconds behind.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Does anyone have a question for Noel? I do a quick one. Noel, do your samurais ever, or your shadows, do they ever get like really cool armor in the book?
They do, actually. Yeah, there's actually a scene. One of them actually always fights. The weapons master, of course, always has his armor. But there's a pretty big scene in book 2 where they are presented with armor, and it's kind of like a big thing. I'm like, oh, it's so cool. It looks awesome.
You got to have a cool armor scene.
Yeah.
And I think every Bizarre Blade series has like an upgrade to the armor, because that's what I like when I'm reading a book. But all right, so I guess that is it for the Fantasy Fiends podcast. Andy, do we have anything else to add?
We do not.
Awesome. So if you want to catch Noel's book, I'm going to have a link in the description. I know I keep saying that, but I don't do it. I'm definitely going to have it this time. Oh, crap. Okay, so book 1 is Shadow's Hand, and that is the series of the Shadow's Creed saga, book 1. So definitely pick that up. If you want more samurai shiznit in your life, definitely grab this book. Very well written, and I had a blast doing... What's his name? Kilo?
Yes.
Kilo. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Noel, for being a part of the Fantasy Fiends podcast. And I'm sorry we had to push you back to Tuesday.
Yeah, no problem. I was happy to. This is one I was looking forward to the most. So I'm happy that it finally came to.
Thank you. I'm not surprised. No, I'm kidding. Wait, you said you're in Colorado?
Yes.
All right. Go smoke some more of that danky dank. And we'll see you next time. Your eyes are a little red. No,
yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we will see you this Thursday. I might be able to make it. I don't know when my flight is back because I have to fly back to Texas for that emergency that I talked about earlier. So we will either have the podcast this Thursday. I will keep Andy in, I'll tell Andy as soon as possible. But Andy, do you know who we have? Well, wait. I don't know when we're going to be back, so I'm going to shut up. Andy, so we're good? We're good on this podcast?
Yes, our next guest will be Tora Moon either this Thursday or Monday or Tuesday next week.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I love you all. I hope you have a great night. This is the Fantasy Fiends. Oh, Noel, how long did it take you to write the book?
I started it 10 years ago, but I only seriously started working on it in the past 3 years.
Holy crap, 10 years. So it was one of those novels we hear about.
Yeah. Yep.
I got you. Yeah, it's and there's only one in the series?
So far, book 2 is I just got developmental edits back, so it'll be ready for advanced readers maybe September.
You're doing it right. I actually had a developmental editor for the Bizarre Blades, and man, it was so helpful. But awesome. All right, Noel, thank you so much. And I think I'm going to do a live session real quick. So after this, so if you want to stay tuned, I'll go live. But anyway, guys, that's it for the Fantasy Fiends podcast. We hope you had an amazing stay with us at the Fantasy Fiends Inn, and we will see you soon. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Noel.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Bye, Andy.
Have
Bye,
a
Noel.
good night.
Yes. Y'all